Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very respected nuclear physicist, essayist, and defense analyst from Islamabad, Pakistan, Professor Pervez Hoodbhoy. Professor Hoodbhoy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Professor Hoodbhoy is known for his work promoting freedom of speech, secularism, and education. He's an author of a book titled Islam and Science, Religious Orthodoxy, and the Battle for Rationality, and several others. And he has been recognized and felicitated all over the world. So, sir, today we're going to speak about India and Pakistan, and I'm a great follower of all the work that you are doing and your comments on India and Pakistan. But let me start by asking you, how do you perceive the current state of India-Pakistan relations compared to the past few decades?
Well, India has pretty much shrugged off Pakistan as no more than a nuisance, whereas Pakistan remains fixated on India. Although its domestic troubles are now so deep and so pervasive that the attention is moving towards them rather than India. And I think that looking at the newspapers, I see mention of India just in a few places, whereas earlier on it used to be in multiple places. So Pakistan's domestic troubles have become so gripping for the population and, most importantly, for its ruling class that for the first time the question that's before them is what to do now. Can we make it out of this horrible mess that we are in?
And yet, sir, given the fact that we are tied together with a long border, what are the primary barriers to establish people-to-people communication, which I think is the only answer?
Oh, the barriers are very clear, very obvious. It's the visas. They don't allow you to go from here to there or from there to here. If there was people-to-people contact, I'm sure there would be a huge difference in the perception of Pakistanis about India and vice versa. I think the gains for Pakistan would be immense, first in terms of trade, but even more importantly in terms of, well, India is far more educated. It's got better universities, better schools, better educational materials that Pakistan can greatly benefit from. The amount that we spend on defense would be hugely reduced, all that. So the argument is a very strong one that we need to be good, normal neighbors. After all, these are Siamese twins. We were formed out of the same womb. And it's just that we've developed differently.
Very well said, sir. And what would you say is the role of religion and nationalism on both sides in perpetuating the conflicts between India and Pakistan?
Pakistan was founded on the basis of the two-nation theory, which is that Hindus and Muslims are the only two peoples that populate the subcontinent, and that they cannot ever live together in peace, and therefore they must separate. This was articulated, most interestingly, by Veer Savarkar and later Golwalkar. And then in the form that you see from Mr. Jinnah in 1940 during his presidential address in Lahore. So basically, what we see today is that the two-nation theory has been implemented. To my mind, that has put religion at the core now of both nations. It wasn't so for India earlier. India under Jawaharlal Nehru was a secular country which gave plenty of space to Muslims there. Pakistan never gave space to its minorities, particularly to Hindus and also to Christians. And now the space has become still smaller, and we are squeezing the minorities, perhaps even more than India is.
Well said, sir. My next question is that there is a lot of discussion on the role of third parties, whether it is China, whether it is the US, in the relationships between India and Pakistan. I'd love to get your perspective on how do third parties impact both our relationships.
Earlier on, we know that Pakistan was fully aligned with the United States.
Yep.
India was partially aligned with the non-aligned movement. Well, it was part of that, and it had affiliation with the left bloc in the 1950s, but that later changed. Today, if you ask what the situation is, well, Pakistan has become irrelevant in terms of economic clout. In fact, it is constantly looking for money, whereas India has done very well for itself. It is now, well, it just hosted the G20 conference, and it now wants to be a yet bigger player. So in this case, I think external influences don't have the kind of importance that they once had. There is no country that Pakistan has a defense alliance with, and that includes China. We do not have a defense alliance with China.
Okay.
And of course, not with the United States anymore. Basically now, India's it has come into its own. Pakistan is fumbling around, and this should call for a radical rethinking of Pakistan's foreign policy. And I hope it'll come. I hope reality will sink in fast.
And where do you think the responsibility lies to be able to start taking such an initiative to normalize both the relationships between the two countries?
In Pakistan, it's absolutely clear. It's the military establishment that's got to take the first step. It's got to say, look, guys, we've tried to solve Kashmir by force, and that's not going to happen. We know that the line of control is now impossible to change. Pakistan cannot hope to take over the Indian part of Kashmir. But on the other hand, India cannot hope to take over the Pakistani part of Kashmir.
Correct.
Because both countries have nuclear weapons. So, accept things as they are. Make the line of control soft. Allow trade across that. And people's from one side to go to the other side and so forth. And look, it's not a hard problem then. It's a matter of coming to your senses. And look, here I will not blame Pakistan alone. Consider what is happening in Siachen, the highest battleground in the world, where the casualties are not from artillery or from gunfire, they're from frostbite. I just met some Pakistani soldiers who were officers who were going to their posts in Siachen. And I said, you're lovely fellows, but why are you doing such a stupid thing? And they agreed. They said, yeah, it's bloody stupid, but we have to do what we have to do. We were told to do. But it's the Indians who took the initiative on Siachen. And if they were to retreat and the Pakistanis were to retreat, we would save lives, our soldiers' lives, young men who are perfectly fine, decent human beings.
Correct.
It's an irrational conflict over there. Let's make that a starting point and then gradually move towards softening the line of control.
Very well said. But do you see either of the two countries having the political will? And I remember having a conversation many years ago with Shaukat Aziz when he was the Prime Minister, on being able to declare the line of control as the official border between the two countries and removing conflict.
Well, I'd like that, but I don't think it's really possible. What I think is just put less emphasis, make it less salient.
Yeah.
And you see, the difficulty is, I think, more from the Indian side now, because India is in a state of high hubris. It's sent Chandrayaan-3 to the moon. There's another rocket that's going to investigate the sun and all that. So they say, why do we need to make any compromises to Pakistan? Let them come and be and humbly request our forgiveness. Well, that is not going to happen. The Pakistanis, yeah, they're in a desperate state, but there's something called honor. It's a very stupid thing.
Yeah,
I hate, I hate honor.
Yeah,
it's irrational. But let's accept the fact that the world is irrational. So if India gets off the high horse and says, okay, let's start talking, Pakistan will jump at it at the moment. Well, if they get,
well said. But sir, you've been, seeing this for so many years, and I've loved hearing your comments. Are there any historical instances or periods where, in your opinion, India and Pakistan came close to a reconciliation? And if yes, what can we learn from those instances?
So this idea of softening the LOC was actually Musharraf's. And it's very paradoxical because he was the one who started the Kargil invasion. That was his idea. And well, thereafter he realized the foolishness of it all. And then he offered the olive. And J.N. Dixit and the entire idea of softening the LOC came about. So I think those were good times. But way back in the 1950s, I think were better times. So I remember going with my mother when I was 5 years old, and that was way back in 1955 on the Sabarmati and coming back on the Saraswati. And people used to go back and forth. Borders weren't firm at that time. And in fact, Muhammad Ali Jinnah had never thought that this would be a hard partition. He had properties in India and Bombay, as you know, and he kept buying shares, company shares, and he bought shares in Air India as far back as 1946.
Amazing. So
he didn't expect a hard partition. So those early times were good times. Now the bad times started when General Ayub got ambitious. And the 1965 war, Operation Gibraltar, that poisoned things. So, and then of course, 1971 was catastrophic for Pakistan. It recovered though. We've had good times though, relatively speaking. Now are not good times.
No, now we are not good times at all. I agree, completely agree. The other question that I wanted to ask you was that I'd love to get your comments on the impact of media, both traditional and social media, in shaping perceptions and misconceptions between the two countries.
I'm the wrong person to ask because I don't have any social media presence.
Okay.
I don't even have a smartphone, so you can't ask me about that.
Okay.
I read newspapers, but well, I read the Urdu ones, I read the English ones, I occasionally look at the Hindustan Times, Guardian, and so forth. I think now people can essentially search for whatever conforms with their inner held values. And so where those values came from then get further affirmation from either the mainstream media or social media.
Mm.
I'm told that social media is a lot more effective.
Well said. And I remember, hearing you talk about history that has been written in Pakistan, and there's a lot of course, talk about history being written in India. How do you view the educational curriculum in both countries in terms of perpetuating certain narratives and biases?
Oh, there was a time when I admired what was in Indian textbooks as being so objective and so balanced in terms of how they looked at the world, and particularly at the Hindu-Muslim balance within India. Now that's changed. Now some of India's history is being deliberately erased. And in doing so, India is following exactly what Pakistan did from the very beginning. You see, we started off as a religious state, as a Muslim Rashtra, you could say, and have become much more so now. In the process, we eliminated all earlier history. So in many of our books, the history of the subcontinent begins with 712 AD, which is when Muhammad bin Qasim comes to Sindh.
Yeah.
Now that's complete nonsense.
Correct.
But that's what is taught. In India's case, well, you take away the Mughals and you take away a good chunk of India's history. Of course, there was ancient India, there were marvels and all that. But the Mughal history, the Mughal part, and of course, even before that, the other Muslims would come. For good or for bad, that is part of history. It should be kept. We should not tamper with it.
Right. I agree. I agree with you. My next question is, and you have traveled extensively, lived in the US. Do you see any role the Pakistani and Indian diaspora can play in shaping India-Pakistan relations?
Yes. They absolutely ought to get together. They ought to meet, organize public functions, go to each other's homes. And after all, we are, we share the same DNA.
Absolutely.
We speak almost the same language. When I went around India, except in the south, I spoke in what I thought was Urdu, and the listeners thought was Hindi. Yeah, okay. So if I keep a few Persianized words out, rather prone to do that, well, then it sounds almost like Hindi. So if we can talk to each other, if we look the same, if we have shared experiences that go back centuries, then what's the problem of talking to each other? It's so stupid when I see Indian students and Pakistani students separate from each other at campuses in the US. Okay, it wasn't so in 50 years ago when I was in the United States. I have still kept up with my Indian friends. Some are still in the US, some have moved back to India, but we became friends for life.
Correct. Well said. Absolutely right. In fact, I've often said this when I speak in places. I said that people from North India, certainly Delhi and so on, I said, I look the same, I speak the same, I eat the same as my neighbor in Pakistan, as compared to someone from South India, for example. So I just wonder why this people-to-people contact does not get accelerated, and you commented on that. But I'd like to move on, sir, and I want to ask you about some regional developments. like the situation in Afghanistan. And that seems to be impacting, and I keep hearing commentaries about what India is supposedly doing in Pakistan. In Afghanistan, I don't have any information. But what do you think the situation in Afghanistan is impacting India-Pakistan relations?
Oh, it's very interesting, isn't it? Pakistan got its dream government in Afghanistan.
Absolutely,
We
yes.
worked so hard to get it there. And now they're a pain in the butt. Well, it's more than that, because they support the TTP, which is a branch of the Taliban, ideologically identical to the Afghan Taliban. And the TTP is killing every day a few soldiers, a few policemen, which means that over a year, the toll is horrific. Now, when now you see, Pakistan expected that because the Afghan Taliban would be so beholden to them, to the Pakistanis, they would rein in the TTP. Nothing like that has happened. Okay, now it's very interesting. Terrorist attacks that used to take place in Pakistan were ascribed to India through its 23 consulates spread across Afghanistan. Now, in fact, there were not 23. I don't know how many there were. There were probably 3 or something like that. But there was a scapegoat there. It was India which was fueling terrorism, which was directly involved in terrorism. And of course, when they caught this guy, what's his name, Kulbhushan Yadav, then of course everything was proved. Yeah, everything was proved. Well, hang on, what's going on now? Every day we are losing soldiers, policemen, ordinary people to terrorists. Who are we to blame now? Now they're blaming the Afghans. But the Afghan government was put there at their own initiative. So it's become a lot more complicated.
Yeah. Well said.
As I say, you reap as you sow.
Correct. So I have time for 2 more questions for you, sir. My next question is that given the rise of India, and we spoke about the G20, do you see this rise of India impacting significantly geopolitical dynamics in the Indian subcontinent?
Yes, India is now poised for becoming a regional superpower, and the impact of that, and now because of geopolitical rivalries, we see that China is going to be will want to counter that. Pakistan hopes that China will then be more benevolent towards Pakistan and supply it with more aid and weapons and investment and whatever. But the Chinese are not easily duped, and so they are taking things cautiously. They have not given Pakistan any substantial write-off in its debt. They have given Pakistan no aid at all. They have given loans, they have invested, and they want the money back on those investments, and they want the interest back on the loans. So what I see happening is that Pakistan will retreat into a smaller and smaller position. Now, India might think that this is a good thing and it's well-deserved. Not going to get into that. But there's a danger. Because if Pakistani society becomes too poor, then it is more susceptible to radicalization. And with Afghanistan at the doorstep, then it will cause a good part of Pakistan to become radical.
Yeah.
And that's a danger to everyone.
Absolutely.
To the liberal, non-radical parts of Pakistan, but also to India.
Absolutely.
And globally as well.
Absolutely. I don't
one
think
should not hope for that Pakistan will collapse.
Correct. I've heard many people say that they hope that this situation will never come because India probably would not want Taliban at its doorstep. And that Pakistan is a great buffer between Afghanistan and India. And I've heard this several times. But my last question to you, sir, and I have a lot of respect for your wisdom. If you could advise the leadership of both countries on a path forward, what would your message be?
Well, for the Pakistanis, I'd say come to your senses. Look, what we've done in the past has been absurd. We have launched 3 wars of choice against India. 1947, 1965, 1999. 1971 was a civil war. Now stop focusing upon India. Start focusing upon the welfare of your own people. Downsize the military. Control corruption. And above all, completely change the educational system of Pakistan, which under Imran Khan, the single national curriculum, has turned our regular schools into madrasas. Nothing can be more dangerous than that.
Correct.
So that's my advice to the government of Pakistan. To the government of India, I'd say India is a pluralist country. It should remain as such. It has a large minority population, mostly Muslim, but also Christian. If India squeezes the Muslims there's going to be discord within the country forever. What forms it will take, one cannot anticipate. It can take extreme forms as well. India is getting a bad name for its mistreatment of Muslims in India, and deservedly so. I was appalled that they're using bulldozers to just knock down Muslim houses and celebrating that. And this is in the United States. So it's I forget the name of that town, but it's near New York. And they actually drove a little bulldozer with Modi's picture stuck up front. And what does that stand for? That we're going to knock the Muslims down. I think that's turning India into a religious fascist state. So both countries have to get their acts together. Our peoples need to become friends at some point. After all, we are the same people.
Absolutely. And on that note, sir, thank you so much for speaking to me. This has been such an eye-opening kind of conversation. I was always looking forward to speaking to you, but I think the perspectives you've given on the two countries is just absolutely incredible. Thank you for speaking to me, sir, and good luck.
Thank you. It has been my privilege to speak to you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.